Womp. Here it is.
He's Derek.
I am a bear chub. I'm into bears, geeks, and daddies.
She's Romaine.
She's a freak. I want a fat twat. Oh my God. What the fuck?
This is Derek and Romaine.
2.0, bitches. Woo! Hey, Derek.
No, Romaine.
What?
So filthy.
What, me? No.
Yes, so disturbing.
No.
Yeah, you really are. Although, before we get to our guest, Natalie Douglas is going to be joining us in just a few minutes to talk about her latest album. But since the bears were invoked in our opening, the National Park Service has been, giving some guidelines on dealing with bears because it's spring and people are heading to America's national parks. And as we have seen, especially during the pandemic, the wildlife assumed that we all disappeared. And they have been roaming freely. And then as we have returned, the wildlife is like, bitch, this is my land now, as it has always been. And so there have been a lot more human wild animal encounters. But one of the problems that they have in the Park Service and everything is that people really do not know what to do around wild animals.
Oh, no. People are stupid around wild animals.
Yeah. And they think that the wild animals are basically like...
teddy bears.
Well,
they want to be my friend.
They think they're like pets.
Yeah, they're not domesticated pets. They are wild animals that will eat you.
I know. But they're not really focused on that. So, anyway, so the National Park Service has some helpful tips. But, as always, don't use Derek and Romaine for medical or safety information.
No. We don't know shit.
Please read the guide in the, pocket behind the seat in front of you.
Yeah.
And get your safety information there. Don't, I try to give people good information here on the show, but... if you get mauled by a bear, don't come to me because, I did what Derek said. Don't.
Because Derek is an expert on not getting mauled by a bear. Come on.
But the National Park Service did offer recently some helpful tips for people with dealing with bears. One thing that they said, which is why I'm bringing it up, is if you see a bear, don't push your slower friend in between you and the bear.
Why not?
And run for it.
Why? That seems like the best idea.
No, that's how your friend is going to get killed.
Well,
also,
yes,
there's no
you
guarantee.
Won't get killed.
Yeah, but bears frequently, some wild animals, are activated by the running.
No, that's true.
So pushing your friend to the ground and running might actually only encourage the bear to chase you
that
and
is
skip
also
your
true.
friend.
They could just be like, oh, that friend's already dead, so I got to go get this one that isn't dead yet.
Yeah, but I would also question the idea of friend when you have pushed somebody to the ground the second that you were threatened by a wild animal.
Derek, it's fight or flight.
Look, hey, girl, believe me, I would push you down.
I know. I will do the same, by the way.
I wouldn't even have to, because I could outrun you. You can push me down and have a head start. I can still outrun you.
I mean, maybe.
I outwalk you.
I'm a very fast runner. I'm not.
But you're not a very fast walker.
No, I'm a slow walker.
Well, I think I could outrun you.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I want to have a foot race with you, because I'm not like my dad. Bjorn was constantly trying to have foot races against us all the time when we were kids.
No wonder you walk so fast all the time.
Well, I think I have Doris was a fast walker. I come from a long-legged family, except for my poor sister Tiffany, who's the short one. And all the rest of us are tall. Mm-hmm. And so we have a long stride. And so we cover a lot more ground. But yeah, my dad was constantly, he was into, fitness and activity.
Ugh,
and so he was always like, hey, I'll race you across the yard. Pull this kind of shit all the time.
Why?
I'll give you a 3-second head start, just like Joan Crawford. Yeah.
Oh, horrible.
I know. Anyway, he always beat us because he was, taller and older than we were. Of course he was going to beat us. We were 8. What, he couldn't beat us in a foot race across the lawn? Girl, please. Yeah. So anyway, but I would try at least, even though I knew it was futile. We would try.
But you always lost.
Well,
it's all right.
But I don't know what the purpose of his foot racing us across the lawn was, to teach us to try harder against insurmountable odds, or to just give up when it's obvious that you're not going to win.
Maybe he just liked beating you.
He probably did. I think he just wanted somebody to race across the lawn, and he already struggled to hold on to his wives, and they weren't going to do it.
Right.
He didn't have a lot of like adult male friends to be friends with. You know what? That's a weird thing. You know, he did not have a lot of friends.
Okay.
I mean, later in life, he did like befriend people, but he was never really friends with adult women because he was always trying to fuck them or actually fucking them. And then with men, like there was probably at some point never an opportunity to like meet another guy. But
Right.
there was never, he never had a male friend who came over and hung out, or they never had like dinner with another couple.
Right.
Like he never did any of those things. I don't know. Anyway, that's not about bears, because Bjorn was not a bear. It was really more of like a wolf, maybe,
Oh,
if he had a category.
a wolf.
Well, he would
Okay.
sometimes have a beard, and he had a little bit of a hairy chest or
Yeah.
whatever, but he was fairly lean his whole life. So I think he's a wolf. Anyway, he would probably prefer to be classified as a wolf. But this is about bears. So the National Park Service says, don't push your slower friend down. And then depending on the bear, there are different strategies. And this is the part where I think people will really struggle.
Okay.
Because in the moment when you see a bear, your first thought is not going to be, now, which kind of bear is this?
Right.
Most people are going to panic, and their thoughts are going to melt away, and they're going to freak out.
Okay.
So the fact that there are different strategies for different bears is kind of a problem, because unless you're an experienced person running into bears, you're probably going to have a hard time retaining this information. As a person who panics in panicky situations,
Right.
I know I will be helpless here. But anyway, according to the National Park Service, if it is a brown bear or a grizzly bear, you're supposed to do what, Romaine?
A brown bear or a grizzly bear are very aggressive bears. So I'm guessing with those bears, you play dead.
That is correct.
A black bear, you're going to stand up and make yourself appear as big as ever because they're kind of scaredy cats, and you can probably scare them away.
Yeah. Now, the National Park Service says that if you see a brown or a grizzly bear, you should either play dead or hide in a car. Like if you're near a car,
Right.
just get in the car
And hide in it.
And then, I guess, play dead in the car. Lay down across the seats and just pretend like you're asleep.
Yeah, because they are the more territorial bears. They are more aggressive.
Right.
They will fuck your shit up.
So you want to show like, I'm helpless, and then they'll probably leave you alone.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, but with the black bear, as Romaine said, make yourself seem big, growl at them.
Scream,
and if they
yell, wave your arms, make
Yeah.
yourself appear scary.
yes, and as big as possible. And then if they do come at you, just like a shark, punch it in the face.
Oh, you punch a black bear.
Yeah. Now,
Oh,
they
that's
did say with any of the bears, because, like, if you have a brown or grizzly bear and you play dead and it starts, like, biting at you or whatever,
Right.
you also punch it in the face because, like us, their faces are sensitive.
Yeah.
And if you punch it in the face, and not everybody is a boxer, so, you might have trouble connecting, but that basically is a strategy. If the bear is trying to kill you, punch it in the face.
So if a bear, in that case, if I see a grizzly bear and it's coming towards me, I'm going to lay on the ground and I am going to get I'm going to try to find two big rocks to put in my hand before I lay down.
Right.
And then if they come, I'm not going to punch them in the face. I'm going to hit them upside the head with a rock.
Yeah.
Because that's much harder than my fist is. And my fist will hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you could also, if there's not a rock around, you could grab a handful of dirt and throw that in their eyes and then punch them in the face. Because they will be distracted by the dirt in their eyes.
Yeah.
And then get punched in the face. And then they'll probably be real mad at that point. But they also may not think that you are worth the trouble. Because that's really what you want to do here with the bears, if they attack you is you want to make it not worth their while.
Right.
But as we have seen, like sometimes the bears are hungry. This has been a real problem, is that the bears have not had enough to eat. And if they're hungry enough, they're going to eat you no matter, even if they think you're dead.
Yeah.
Even if you punch them in the face, if they're hungry,
They're going to eat you.
they're going to eat you. So, I think the reason that the Park Service is making these particular warnings now is the bears have just come out of hibernation, depending on, how late the season is where you go. And those bears are coming out hungry. So it's not a good time to interact with the bears. Later in the season, when the bears are fully fed, they're probably less aggressive.
Yeah, I would agree with that. They are. Because we have a lot of black bears by where I live. And there are definitely times of the year you don't want to mess with them. And then there are other times of the year where it's like, they're well fed. They don't care about you. They're scared of you now. Now they're not hungry. Mostly, yes. You still have to be careful, but yes. I'm more concerned about the coyotes where I live than I am the bears. Because we have a pack that's living in the woods behind my house that is a large pack of coyotes. Like you can hear them at night, and there are many of them.
Well, I don't have a small pet, so I don't care about coyotes. Like, it doesn't bother me.
You should care about a coyote because a pack of coyotes is not afraid to hunt as a pack, and they will hunt bigger game. Like, you got to be careful with coyotes. They will attack a person. They will attack a child.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm not a child, although, as you know, I am so petite that I do require a child's life vest on board the ship during safety demonstrations.
Yes, I'm aware.
But I'm rarely in a circumstance, like I'm not going out at night in some kind of circumstance or in my yard or in the woods in which I think I will be menaced by a pack of coyotes. And there is too much life around here for the coyotes to eat. I got squirrels and rabbits and all sorts of things that the coyotes could be eating. Neighborhood cats. That I'm not worried about a coyote being so hungry here that they would try to take a bite out of crime. But I do understand your concern. I also have only ever seen that one limpy coyote. And he only runs on 3 paws. I think I could take him. I don't really see our coyotes very often, but we hear them. Like last night, I went down to the farm for a beer after work. And as one does.
And on the way down to the farm, you could hear them, and they were very loud, and a lot of them. Like there were probably, I would guess there's at least a dozen of them in that pack. Which is, I mean, that could be real problematic for, like, if you have a dog that wanders around in the yard, that a pack like that could tear a dog apart in 5 seconds.
Oh, that sounds fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, I guess the moral of this story is don't leave the house, don't go into nature.
No.
Don't have anything to do with any of it, which is a problem because my RV obsession is such that I will probably end up at some point in America's national parks. But given how I have a wonderful yard and a beautiful town to live in and I never leave my house, something tells me that even if I beep into an RV into some national park, I will gaze out the window and go, isn't that majestic? And then just lay around inside the RV the whole time. I'm probably in very little danger of being mauled or attacked by anything. I really think that I don't have a lot to worry about from nature. I don't think outside of what the weather is doing to us, I don't think nature will kill me. But all the time trees fall on people and houses, whatever. Like I think I'm more likely if nature kills me, it will be because a tree fell on me.
Jesus Christ. Well, I mean, that could happen.
I have a lot of big trees around my house, and the wind here has been some real BS. I have in my yard, I have this a Martin house because Doris, when she moved to Michigan, the first thing that she did was buy a Martin house, and it is a tree house. It's a bird house. and it's like a bird apartment building. And you put it up on a very tall pole in an open field because the martins like a long coasting flight into their home. So they like a lot of open space. But martins eat flying insects.
Which
like,
is
that
good.
Is their primary
you want to
diet.
eat all those fucking insects.
Well, but here's the thing. They don't, people get them as mosquito control, but the martins, their hunting time of day is not when mosquitoes are most active. So they're actually not particularly effective at eating mosquitoes, but they do eat a lot of other flying bugs. So if you don't like flying bugs in general, martins are great to have if you're in an area where they are. And so when I bought my house, I put up a martin house because outside my house, because with the open lawns, there is actually a good open flight path on either side of the martin house. So I put up a martin house. And have I gotten martin 1 in that house? No.
I'm going to guess no.
No, but it is full of, I don't know what these birds are. I'm sure I'll get an email after I say this, because I'm not a birder. I like seeing birds, but I'm not, let me check and see what bird this is. When I first got here, I got one of those bird apps that helps identify them. And as much as I am let me make a nice Jell-O mold for this neighborhood party kind of a person, I really never got into the bird identifications. But they have it's some kind of not particularly pretty small brown bird that has taken over the martin house. They sing all the time. There's a lot of singing going on. So they're a songbird, they have pretty voices, but they are not attractive to look at. Because, some birds are just stunning, like beautiful. And these are just little brown birds. But they have they sing all the time, and it can be quite loud. And especially because, like, the martin house has, whatever it is, 12 slots.
Right.
So there could be a lot of fucking birds in there.
Yeah.
And they're all singing. So in the morning, because it's right outside, sort of at eye level with the guest room, because my house is sort of built on a slope. So the guest room on the first floor is actually really from the backyard, like the second floor. And so from that slope, the martin house is a little at eye level when you're on the second floor or on the first floor. And so that guest room in the morning, those birds start singing. It is right outside the window. And the birds used to bother Mike and Brian. They're more sensitive sleepers, and their side of the house had a lot more like early morning bird action.
Yeah.
Of singing and chirping and whatever else than my side of the house has, where the garage is off of my room. So there's, I'm not close to where the birds are hanging out, but there are trees right outside of the room on the other side of the house, and they are just the second dawn. They might as well be roosters, because they are just chirping the fucking day the second the sun comes up. Anyway, so I have this martin house, and it is full of birds. But like today, I looked out at it, and it is the wind twisted it around, because it used to face, like the top of it used to face another direction.
Right.
But the wind kept catching it, and it has twisted the top of the birdhouse around, the martin house. And now it is like leaning at a precarious angle because the wind that has been so strong. I got to get out there and like reinforce it. But I noticed the birds were in it. It was kind of like the Titanic an hour before disappearing. Like the angle is a precarious angle. And those birds are just in there. Like it's all fine. Girl, it is not fine. But they were chirping a lot today. So maybe they were talking about like, ooh, I don't like this angle. Everything's like slid to the side. Be careful.
Oh, well. I mean, I guess they are very precarious and very picky birds. What can you do?
They might be. Look, I feed them.
That's
with
all
their
you can do.
overpriced bird seed.
I feed my birds too.
Oh God.
Well, so they are messy. My birds are fucking messy.
Well, they don't care.
They really don't. They're like, ugh, I don't like these seeds. Let me throw those on the ground and then eat the ones I like. My birds do that a lot. It's annoying as fuck. I mean, I like my birds, and I'll continue feeding them because the cats like to watch them, but also it's annoying as fuck.
Yeah.
I'm like,
dropping
birds.
their seed on the ground.
I mean, they
like
literally do. They throw it everywhere.
Bears at a sex club.
And then the squirrels come over, and then they get all crazy, and it's like a fucking party on my porch. Next thing you know, one of them's been lost in a hole, and you'll never see him again.
It really does go to another dimension, doesn't it?
I mean, it could. It possibly. It might be like that. Yeah.
All right. Well, Natalie Douglas is joining us in a few minutes to talk about her album, and she sings a lot of standards. And, you know, I'm always looking for fresh new stories to tell on this show.
Are you now?
I know it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
But you may have been curious about my interest, like when I became interested in standards.
Okay. I feel like you've always been interested in standards. Was there ever a time you weren't?
Well, I became interested when I was a kid. And not because, you know, frequently, like Pie Pants, some of Pie Pants' musical interest is based on the music that you guys were playing around the house when she was growing up, right? So she was more likely to discover, say, Madonna because of you. But as you have seen, like she has discovered all sorts of music artists that are, you know, before your time.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, how in the fuck did she ever engage with this music?
Right.
But has become engaged with it. Well, anyway. So when I was like a kid, teenager, there was an oldie station in California, in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And growing up, I watched a lot of old movies because I would watch like the $1 Million Movie and that kind of thing. And I was into old movies as a kid because it was on TV all the time. And so those would frequently have songs of the era. So if you watch an old movie from the 30s or 40s, it's going to have songs from the 30s or 40s. Hollywood used to love a pastiche, a movie that would have sort of like a romantic leading couple, but then there would be a couple of character actors that were there for comedy, and then there would be some kind of musical number in there somewhere. They would go to a nightclub and a singer would sing or something, or somebody would have, you know, there would be some kind of circumstance in which one of the characters had to go on stage and perform a musical number for some reason to further the plot, right? And so that was sort of a traditional Hollywood, like a light movie situation that would happen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grew up watching these kinds of movies. And then when I was in my tween years, maybe early teen years, there was a radio station in Los Angeles that would play music. It was primarily like swing music from, you know, the late 30s into the 40s. And I used to listen to that all the time. And that was like my go-to. I would still listen to pop music because there was always a lot of pop music around, like the current music in the 80s. But I listened to a lot of music of the like 1940s.
Interesting.
When I was a teenager. And you think about that and it's like, oh, how on earth would a teenager become interested in music from 40 years ago? But I got a news flash for you. Like the 80s were 40 years ago. When Pie Pants listens to early Madonna, now, it's like me listening to swing music when I was a teenager. Like that is the same distance in time.
No, it's true.
So if Pie Pants listens to like disco classics and whatever else, that's like in the 80s listening to something from the 1930s.
Sure.
That's how far in the past.
I don't like to think about it like that, but yes, you're right. You don't. Thank you for that.
But my parents... My mom was never into like that kind of music. And my dad also like never, dad was into, I mean, when I was a kid and ABBA came out because he was from Norway and they were from Sweden and that was close enough. He was obsessed with ABBA. He wasn't really like into disco overall, but he was really into ABBA and Aha, because they were Nordic bands. He had a lot of Nordic pride. So we had a lot of ABBA and a lot of Aha around. When I was at his house. And then my mom, when I was a kid, she moved to Northern California, and then she got into that whole Olivia Records, lesbian folk scene. And there was a lot of that when I was growing up.
Of course there was.
I heard all of that.
Of course you did. Of course you did. That doesn't surprise me at all.
No.
Not even a little bit. I mean, I grew up listening to a lot of old music, too, but that's because my parents were old and I had to listen to their music.
Right.
and I mean old music.
What does that even mean?
Old music.
For instance,
Al Jolson.
Oh, that is old. Plus, also a little racist.
I agree. That's what I grew up listening to. Shit like that. Yeah.
Al Jolson is old.
Thank you. I know.
I mean, even for your parents, because the jazz singer, Al Jolson was a popular stage performer in New York City in the 1920s. And when they were making their first talkie in 1927, the Warner Brothers, they needed somebody who was a singer because all of the silent stars were not known for their voices. Famously, Clara Bow had a terrible Brooklyn accent, which was fine for silent, but people could imagine her sounding like whatever, some velvety dream. And she didn't sound like that at all. She sounded a lot more like Barbara Stanwyck. And anyway, so they needed people who could sing and talk. So they went to Broadway for performers in the early sound movies. And Al Jolson was a big star on Broadway, and he toured a bit, I'm sure, and was on the radio, and that was a real help. And but yeah, Al Jolson was a huge star because of the jazz singer and everything for that like late 20s, early 30s time period, which is even early for your parents because your mom was born in like the early 1930s.
Yeah, 34.
Yeah. And your dad was a little older than that. So their love of Al Jolson basically predated when they were born. So it must have been something that they heard around the house.
My guess is
up.
something that their parents listened to.
Yeah. And then they
listened to it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Al Jolson.
That's right. One of my dad's favorites.
About the Moona and the Juna and the Springer. I love to sing it.
Redonkulous.
It is. Well, Natalie Douglas also loves to sing.
Oh, she does. And she's so good.
She's so good. And she is coming up next here on Derek and Romaine.
DNR 2.0.
Derek here, along with Romaine, and our returning champion singer, Natalie Douglas, is back with us. Her new album, she loves being a returning champion, you can tell. Ding, ding, ding. Back in the ring. Natalie Douglas is back with us.
And she's ready to knock you out.
I know. Her latest album is a real knockout. Back to the Garden. It is available now, and you can check it out on her website, nataliedouglas.com, and you can find her on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. She is Natalie Douglas on Twitter, Natalie Douglas Singer on Instagram, and Natalie Douglas Music on Facebook. Natalie, you have the same social media problem we do. We're different everywhere we go.
Yeah, I know. It's all the many sides of me.
Right,
because
exactly.
we did not envision that we would have so many places that we would need to be at once.
I know. Who knew we had to brand ourselves 15 years ago, you know?
It really is totally exhausting. Now, you recently ran into somebody very famous, our own Romaine Patterson.
Back in October.
It was so much fun. It was so good to see you.
It was good to see you. So we were in the city. I was attending Randy Driscoll, who's a very good friend of mine. She was doing a benefit concert for the Matthew Shepard Foundation for the 25th anniversary of Matthew's death. And I didn't know who all she would have performing with her, but lo and behold, there you were.
I know. And I wasn't sure if you were going to be there because I knew there were other 25th anniversary events in Colorado. And so I wasn't sure if you were going to be in New York or, so I wasn't positive I would see you that night. It was a lovely surprise because it had been a minute since we've run into each other.
It really has. Now, first I have to ask you, because I don't think I asked you that night, but how do you know Randy?
I know Randy from Cast Party. David Gerland, actually. Our dear late friend David brought Randy to Cast Party back in the early days of Cast Party. David and I were friends. David and Jim Caruso were friends.
Right.
And David brought Randy to sing her song for Jim. And we all met, I guess it was like 2002, 2003. And we just hit it off instantly. I love her. She's brilliantly talented and a darling girl. And, we just shared so many things in common. And we've been friends ever since.
I think it's hysterical that that's how you met Randy, because that's how we met you, is at a cast party.
Well, Jim Caruso is responsible for so many relationships.
Oh, yeah. He really is. I mean,
he really is.
It's quite amazing, the talented people that he has had come to the cast party and perform and sing. And yeah, it is kind of amazing. Because I remember the first time I think Derek and I ever went to the cast party, we saw you, and I was like, who the fuck is that? Because, like, you just got up and just nonchalant got up there and just belted your face off. And I was like, what? Who is that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've known Jim forever. And back then, I remember, he had a Christmas party. So that was, I guess, December of 2002. And he was repping that room. He was doing press for that room. And he had his Christmas party there. And after, like, I think there was a little combo or something that was hired, but they all left because it was a Sunday night. I remember that. And it was the Sunday, maybe right before Christmas. And the hired musicians took off. And, like, a bunch of us didn't even get there until after showtime. And we went early, and then we left and we got some dinner, and then we went back after, like, everybody was done with their Broadway shows. And so we were there at 10 o'clock and the music was done. So we all, like, started playing and singing for each other and just goofing around. And I remember I sang something with Jim's darling mom, Pat, who's no longer with us, but who was a fantastic piano player and always a really good time. And we just, like, sang and hung out, and it turned out to be so much fun. And our friend Lionel Casaru, who was the manager of that room, turned to Jim and said, "Could you do this once a week?" You know? And Jim, of course, said no. So then suddenly we were doing that the first Monday after the new year. And he called me and he said, "I'm doing this insane thing, and I don't know who's going to show up, and I have to have somebody who I know will get up and sing at the drop of a hat," and that's me. So, so I was there every week. It was really fun.
And what I think is always so crazy is, you know, New York City, people pay a lot of money to see very talented singers on Broadway. And then on a Monday night, you could stroll into the cast party and you could see them all practicing new numbers, you know, trying out some stuff if they were going to have a big, you know, casting thing coming up. Like, that was my favorite thing. It's like, this is the secret. This is the secret sauce right here.
Oh, yeah. And singing together. I mean, I remember once back in those days, I walked in one night and John Bacchino came running up to me and said, "Can I play with you? Can I play a song and you sing?" And I was like, "Yeah, that would be great." You know. And one night, Billy Porter was on his way up to the piano, and we've known each other forever, of course. But he was like, "Feel like singing backup?" And I was like, "Absolutely." You know, I mean, it was just silliness. It was like whatever we felt like doing. And one year I guess the first year, Max von Essen's birthday was a big party, and his birthday's a few weeks before mine. So, like, everybody came that night, and everybody wanted to sing, and we all jumped in on each other's numbers, and it was just fun. You know, it was just like a goof. And I met a lot of people there that I didn't know, and then, you know, also got to hang out with friends I already did know. That was the beauty of it, that Jim created this space where, because, you know, all of us who do these weird kind of performance-y things for a living, or radio or whatever, like, we don't often get to be together.
Right.
You know, we can love each other and be fans of one another's work, but we don't often get to be in a room together and just kind of hang and do the thing. And that's what Jim created, you know, all those, like, 21 years ago now. I guess almost 22.
Yeah, it's a long time.
I mean, we've had the same thing working in radio, is that frequently you work with other people in the business, but they're working at the same time you're working, and you're never working together, but you're all having the same experience. And, you know, this absolutely happens with Broadway performers or actors for movie and TV, where you're all in the industry and you rarely have time to actually interact with each other, and any opportunity that you can play together, perform together, and see each other's work, I think, is really wonderful.
Now, Natalie, how would you say that things like this influenced your music? Because, I mean, obviously, you know, when you do get to perform with people of that caliber, it's got to have some kind of huge influence on you, yes?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I learned a long time ago from growing up. I grew up in Los Angeles, and I went to USC undergrad and UCLA grad, and started singing. Really, I mean, I've been singing my whole life, but started singing for strangers when I was going to UCLA, and I just started saying yes. When people said, "Hey, do you want to do the?" Yes, it would often provide you with lots of opportunities you wouldn't otherwise have. So I said yes to a lot of weird jobs. I mean, I sang in a steakhouse in Westwood on Monday nights when, the manager, who was a really cute guy, was sort of semi-dating, said, I can't pay you, but I'll feed you. You can have steak. And hey, starving college student, that is an excellent plan. So I did that for a while. I mean, it often, I think, allows you to be creative, to be improvisational, to kind of just get over your fears about, wow, we haven't rehearsed this and I don't exactly know what's going to happen. And, it allows you to have an element of play in this thing that you work at and you study and you rehearse. And yes, all of those technical things are important too, but you have to have some fun with it. You have to learn how to play with it and kind of live in it too. And I think that's what these kind of impromptu moments allow. Mm-hmm. And I also think, it's something that my husband said when we first started going to Cast Party, he turned to me and said, this is what we thought moving to New York would be, because there were things about those nights that felt very much like movies you saw growing up about, living in New York and show people going to a fancy party after the theater, waiting for the reviews to come out, and singing and playing for each other. And that's what it was like, so it felt like a really cool place to be. It felt fun. I watched performances that, I can't even. I mean, Cheetah and Betty Comden and Phoebe Snow, people who walked in and said, "Sure, I'll sing, Jim," and there they were singing for $0 on a lark. It was amazing. And I got to sing with BJ Crosby. I mean, she was one of my idols. I worshiped that woman. And she said, "Get on up here," and I'll never forget it. It was the summer of 2004. And it was one of the most exciting things that had ever happened to me to that point. I mean, I think I learned a lot from watching people. And I actually had this conversation a couple years ago with Michael Feinstein, oddly enough, because, he worked in piano bars and restaurants in Los Angeles for a really long time, which is where I first met him, actually, when I was still in high school. And I worked in piano bar when I first moved to New York. Mm-hmm. And I said, the thing that I lament about the fact that there aren't as many spaces like that to work. They still exist. Downtown Mama, Duplex, they're still here, but not as many as there were, is that I had a chance anywhere from 3 to 5 nights a week, because that was how many nights I usually worked, for years to sing in front of people when the stakes weren't so high.
Right.
Because it wasn't my name on the marquee. They weren't coming to see me necessarily. It was a Friday night at a piano bar, and I was, waiting tables or bartending, and then I'd get up and sing some songs. And I do that all night long. And I got a chance to really work in front of an audience and get to know what that's like, and talking to people and reacting to them and having this relationship develop. And you don't get to do that if you go straight from your college program, your theater program, to, the Broadway stage or the regional stage. Right. And the first time you're on a cabaret stage or a concert stage, it's, for a paying audience that's come to see you. Mm. They saw your name because they loved you in whatever show, or because they loved your album, because they heard you on the Romaine and Derek show. And it's like,
the Romaine and Derek show, Derek.
That's her dream come true.
Exactly. It's like, so then they show up to come and see you,
Right.
And if you've never done this before, there's a bit of a learning curve. Sure. And I feel really lucky that I had those years to be in front of an audience when the stakes were a bit lower, and when it was Cast Party and it was singing for other performers who can be, critical, but also like really supportive too.
Right.
You know, other performers want you to do well, and we're all on the same team, really, you know. So I feel like I got a really great chance to learn and grow before the stakes were high.
Yeah, I get that. So let's talk about this new album, Back to the Garden. So, you know, you've worked on this album. It's very personal to you. Tell us a little bit about what inspired it.
Sure. I got the chance to sign with a label. This is the first time. I have 3 previous albums that are self-produced, and with my team, my personal team, my husband and my best friends, and I'm really proud of that work. And I feel like we grew each time we did that. But obviously, you know, that was a different animal.
Right.
And again, thanks to Jim Caruso. Several years ago, Jim told me that he wanted to introduce me to somebody at Cast Party. I happened to be there one night, and I said, "Oh, okay, great." And he said he wants to meet you. He's a fan. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And he said he's a record producer. And I said, "Oh, awesome." And he goes, "No, he's a real record producer," which of course made us both laugh. And he was like, "No, he really is." And I met Wayne Hahn, who turned out to be like one of the sweetest people. And we were talking about music and things we liked. And he had bought my album back when Colony Records existed. That's how long ago.
Wow.
And he didn't know me. He just saw it and thought it looked interesting and bought it. And he was a fan. And so when he realized that Jim and I were friends, he asked Jim, you know, to introduce us. And he said, "I'd really love to record you someday." And I said, "Oh my God, that's so awesome. Thanks." But of course, people say things in bars. So, you know, I didn't really, I wasn't banking on it. But the couple, like not long after that, he told me, we became friends. And he said, "Yeah, we're actually starting the label. It's happening." And I was like, "Oh my God, wow." And their first project was the Swingin' Birdland Christmas, Jim and Billy and Clea's album. And he said, when, you know, they finished that first project, he was like, "We're going to start talking. It's going to happen." And of course, then there was COVID and some other things took some time. But eventually we were really talking, and eventually we were really signing, and it actually happened. And I had such a good time working with them. Everybody at Club 44 Records is really terrific at what they do. And it's been a real delight. And I, like every step of the way, it's been a lot of fun because we're on the same page about so many things. So even though I wasn't, you know, in complete control of this project, there was a label that made decisions too. I was a part of everything. I didn't feel excluded in any way. It's the exact opposite of that. You know, they took my suggestions. There were a lot of things we really, truly collaborated on. It wasn't like I was just a hired gun. You know? And so it wound up being this project. The Back to the Garden, the title came from obviously the song Woodstock, which is one of my all-time favorite Joni songs, but also as we started talking about songs to go on the album, it became clear that a lot of what I wanted to really record and what they were in agreement about in terms of recording or things that helped form me as an artist, songs I learned as a kid. The first song I ever learned, You'll Never Know, which is a standard my mom taught me when I was 4, you know, and that a lot of this music, Nina Simone, Shirley Bassey, Sammy Davis Jr., is music I grew up listening to and loving. And formed me as an artist and as a human. So it is a real like project of heart and love. And I'm really happy to say that they feel the same way because this is something Wayne has wanted to do since he first heard my Nina Simone record, which is the one he bought. Mm-hmm. My second album, and didn't even know me, and thought, "Ooh, I really want to work with this girl someday." So it's like all of us getting to do this work we really, really love.
I mean, that's pretty darn incredible.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is. It's just been like the most joyous and wonderful thing. I mean, it sounds crazy, but last Christmas, a year ago Christmas, I went to see Linda Lavin in the play she was doing off Broadway, You Will Get Sick, which was brilliant, and she was amazing. And, I know her a little bit through Jim Caruso and Billy Stritch, who are very good friends of hers. And I'm a huge fan of hers, of course. And so after the show, I waited just to tell her how brilliant I thought she was. And she said, "Oh, is that Natalie Douglas?" I was like, "Hi." And she said, "Oh my God, I was just talking to the label," because she's on Club 44 too. And she said, "And your name came up. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations. You signed with them." And I said, "Yes." And she goes, when you start working, you're going to think, you're going to be waiting for the other shoe to drop because they're so nice. They're so kind. You won't believe, you'll think it's too good to be true. And I'm here to tell you there is no shoe. She's like, they're really that nice. They're really that, and I laughed and I thought
That's
that was
amazing.
Wonderful. And I'm like, oh my God, Alice is giving me advice. I'm so excited. But she was so kind, and it was such a lovely thing for her to take the time to do. She was also totally correct. They are great. They're really like the nicest people, and everybody there is so good at what they do, and they're on top of everything. And the whole process, like we've been doing this, we started the first tracking session a year ago, February. So for an entire year, I've worked with them on this project, and they've been really great. And that's not like what we usually say when we work with people for a year.
Derek and I always say that the hardest part of our job is other people.
Yeah, it always is.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's the drag, and in this case, it was every single moment. We worked in Nashville, and I had a great time in Nashville. I met the photographer that they used for so many of their projects for the first time the day of the session, and I have photographers I've worked with that I'm really comfortable with. And so I was excited to meet somebody new, but I was also a little bit trepidatious because it's,
Sure.
That's a very personal thing. He's fabulous. Oh my God. I got so many wonderful pictures from this session, and, it's just been great from beginning to end. And I really, really have loved every minute of it.
So now that you've had this incredible experience creating Back to the Garden with a label, would you ever go back to self-producing a label or like an album? Or are you like, no, I'm spoiled now. I've had first class.
I am spoiled now. I don't know. I mean, I hope that we will work together for a really long time because I have had such a good time working with them. But I imagine in a perfect world, you'd be able to do both, right?
Yeah.
On some projects, you work with this fantastic label, and there might be some weird like vanity thing I want to do that they're not into that I could do as a side project. Like one of the reviews that came out, we've been getting raves, which is kind of amazing and delightful.
Oh no, Broadway World is like, this is your best album yet.
I know. Is that cool? Right?
It was pretty great.
And I know, and they said something about it being, something like potentially one of the best albums of the year. And I'm like, oh my God, it's February. That is awesome. Yes, thank you. One of the Will Friedwald at the New York Sun said something about, he was talking about the album, but also talking about shows he's seen me do over the years at Birdland, and saying that, he would love a recording of every one of those, because I do these tribute shows, like the Sammy Davis Jr.
Right.
tribute, all Nina Simone, all Shirley Bassey, all Dolly Parton. And he's seen a lot of them. And he's like, I would love a recording of each one of those. And that feels like a really niche kind of thing that one might do,
Right.
not as wide an audience kind of, so maybe that would be a solo thing. I don't know. But I mean, I'm really happy working with them. I'm not going anywhere unless they boot me. That's how I feel about it right now.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Now, you're going to be going on the road and performing in the coming months. So tell us a little bit about where you're going to go and what your plans are for touring with this album.
Sure. Well, I have a lot of the shows that I have done, these solo shows that are devoted to one artist or another.
Right.
That's what I've been booking for the last, I don't even know, 6-7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So So that's what's on the books coming up, in addition to some of the album stuff. But I'm going to Oklahoma this I guess that's next week, to do some teaching, which will be fun. I do workshops
right
in a lot of the places where I go, and in this case, it's with high school kids, which is always great fun. Because working with people that young, you realize that even if they are musical theater babies, for them, the golden age means like hairspray.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's before their time.
Wow, yeah.
They're 15 years old, So it's wild. It's really fun to, like, watch them listen to music of the 70s and the 80s and the 60s and, the 40s. And, like, it's just all new to them. It's really fun to turn them on to that stuff.
Although I have to say, so my daughter is 16, and she listens to some pretty eclectic shit. I mean, I think for a teenager. And I mean, like, she's listening to, Bob Marley, Jimi Hendrix, Jody. She listens to some pretty crazy shit. And I'm like, Billy Joel is her favorite right now. And I'm like, I don't even understand. I don't even know what's happening right now.
But you know what? There are always kids. Like, I just finished teaching a class, like a weekly elective for professional performing arts school through Mabel Mercer Foundation. And there were always kids in that I think I started that class with 22 kids. And out of those kids, there are certainly always a handful that do have an eclectic base in terms of knowledge of music, because they do have everything accessible. It's just some kids don't seek it out. But if you have the kid that does, your daughter wants to find, it's easy to find, because all they have to do, one of the first things I do when I have my first class with them is get them to start thinking of YouTube as a tool.
Yes.
Because anything that even remotely interests you, you can find,
YouTube is the number 2 search engine in the world. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Behind Google. Yeah. YouTube.
Sure, because I used it like when I built the Roberta Flack show. The first time I ever did that was 2019, and there still is no Roberta Flack bio. So American Masters finally did a sort of life story thing dedicated to her on PBS last January. But, that was 4 years later. When I first built that show, I had to do the entire thing from newspaper articles, magazine articles, and interviews she'd given.
Wow.
So YouTube is, yes, it's valuable, of course, for performances, but even more so for hearing her talk about her life and her career. Because over her life, she's given so many interviews, so many TV and movie and film, so many places she's shown up and talked about what she does. So I found this great footage of Luther Vandross talking about one of his first jobs in show business. He was one of her backup singers, and how kind she was to him and supportive and encouraging as when he was beginning to write his own music.
Wow.
It was, and it's him talking about it. It's really beautiful, this gorgeous piece of footage. It's an incredibly valuable resource. And then London in May, we're back in London with my 60s show, which is really fun. I love doing that one. I built that for the Eugene O'Neill 2 summers ago. Wow. And so we're taking it out there, and that's a hoot, because there's just so much material. There's I grew up in a neighborhood that Nancy Wilson and Tina Turner lived in at one time. So I have that kind of 60s influence, but I also grew up in Los Angeles. So I'm very much a Joni, Linda Ronstadt, Eagles, that sound, that Carla Bonoff, Andrew Gold thing. I love that. So 60s for me is that, but also, Stevie Wonder. So I put this show together that incorporates all these things that I love, which is kind of why I think I love this album so much. It does that. It's all these different eras and all these different genres that make sense to me. It's one cohesive thing, because that's how my brain works. But so that's London in May.
Wow.
And we're going back to the Orinda, which is just outside San Francisco, with the Roberta Flack show. That we're doing that in end of April. That's April 21st. And that one's actually almost sold out. So that'll be fun. And a bunch of, I'm going to Texas later in the year, and Nebraska, going back there for the first time
Nebraska?
in 10 years. I know. I know. Yeah, I'll be in Brownville I think that's in September. Yeah.
Wow.
So, we're bopping about. And then I've got a bunch of other stuff that isn't completely contracted yet, so, can't talk about it yet. But, yeah, I'm going to be bouncing around a bit, so hopefully coming to somewhere near you.
And the best way for people to find out where you'll be and when is to go to nataliedouglas.com, your website, because I know you have your gigs up on the website.
That's right.
Amazing.
Yep. I keep it up to date. Yeah. I do the best I can.
Well, we're all just doing our best, I think. But you're keeping very busy, and you have this new album to promote, so got to hit the road.
Yeah, exactly. Got to let people know about it and sing it live for the people, which is always fun.
Yes. Now, with the new album, we're going to close with one of my favorite songs that you cover here, which is the Cole Porter standard, "Begin the Begin." So, tell me why you chose this for the album.
Sure. It's a song that I've always loved and never particularly wanted to sing. Those things that you're just happy to listen to other people's recordings of. Until 2017, I was building my Sammy Davis Jr. show. And I got into a really deep dive into Sammy. I read all the bios, including several autobiographies he wrote, over the years of his life. He recorded that song a bunch of times. And several of the books mentioned the early Cy Oliver arrangement that he did. And so I was looking for it and went to YouTube, found it, fell madly in love with it. And so my music director, Mark Hartman, and I sat down and came up with our version of that. And it was the first time I ever really wanted to sing this song. There was something about that arrangement and then, our twist on it that suddenly I really understood it. And I really felt like the story that it tells, that I always loved, was something I could get behind and I could see myself in, and so then I just became obsessed with this arrangement. I just think it is, it does everything that song always did to me from the outside as a listener. I suddenly felt like I knew how to do that as the creator, or interpreter, I guess I should say. And I think it's such a great arrangement. It just makes me really happy. And the guys at the label felt the same way.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things about this song is it's one of the few songs ever where the singer basically changes their mind. Like the lyric, you're changing your opinion and point of view in the song. Because most songs,
exactly.
You come to the song and it is a point of view and it is expressed all the way through the song. One point of view, whatever it is. I'm in love. We're in love forever. Whatever. I will love you always.
Or you broke my heart and now I hate you. Yeah.
Right. But Begin the Begin, actually, in the course of the song, the singer's point of view changes. And that to me is what I think is the most powerful thing about the song. Because most songs, sometimes there is a twist. Cole Porter always loved, a double entendre and a twist. Miss Otis regrets. You don't really find out why Miss Otis can't come to lunch until the end. There are definitely surprises that can happen in a Cole Porter song. But to me, that the shift in point of view is the most interesting thing and so novel in music still.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that it true as the song develops, because the song changes and shifts and there's slight, there's tempo changes. There's melody changes. It's not just an A-A-B-A form. I mean, it's definitely not that. It's this form that keeps changing. And so I kind of love that person's point of view is changing as the music is changing and the words are changing. Like the whole thing is kind of an exercise in a person making up their mind. And I just find that fascinating,
Yeah. And, because many songs are telling a story. But this one really is telling a story through complex emotions and feelings. And, that I think really reflect how people can feel and think about something, especially in thinking about love, like a lost love.
Yeah.
You know, you can often have two opinions. You know,
yeah.
you want to be with somebody,
Yeah.
but also, you know, like they are bad for you. And, you know, so you can hold two thoughts at once. I want to be with you, but I really shouldn't. I really can't.
Right.
You know,
but that really doesn't work. Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
I find it really powerful. And I think that for a singer, it is so great because you get to really tackle a song on more than one level, not just vocally, but emotionally.
Yeah. And I can't sing anything that I don't like figure out my own version of the story in, you know, because I am a very musical creature, but I'm really drawn to story. You know, that's what makes me happy about a song, excited about a song, like passionate about a tune. And so once I figure out what the story is and my connection to it, that's what makes me want to sing it. And this song was just a no-brainer once I found this particular kind of arrangement.
Well, and we love connecting with you, Natalie Douglas. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Lovely to chat with you all.
Yes,
Yeah, it
you
really
too.
is. And we look forward to chatting with you again in the future. Our returning champion, Natalie Douglas. You can check her out on the web, nataliedouglas.com. Check out where she will be all across the country. It may be a city near you. And her latest album, Back in the Garden, which is available now.
To the garden, Derek.
Back to the garden. Sorry.
He's messing up the lyric. It's okay.
Back to the garden. Oh, my God. Here I was so ready to close strong.
Oh, it's okay.
But we'll let Natalie do that for us. Here is a bit of Begin the Begin here on Derek and Romaine.
When they begin, the begin, it brings back the sound of music so tender. It brings back a night of tropical splendor. It brings back a memory evergreen. I'm with you once more under the stars, and down by the shore an orchestra's playing, and even the palms seem to be swaying when they begin the begin. To live it again is past all endeavor, except when the tune clutches my heart. And here we are, swearing to love forever, and promising never, never to part. What moments divine, what rapture serene, till clouds came along to disperse the joys we had tasted. And now when I hear people curse the chance that was wasted, I know all too well what they mean. So don't let them begin the begin. Let the love that was once a fire remain an ember. Let it sleep like the dead desire I only remember when they begin the begin. So yes, let them begin the begin. Make them play till the stars that were there before return above you, till you whisper to me once more, my darling, I love you. And we suddenly know what heaven we're in when they begin the begin. they begin.
Well, there you have it. The end of another perfect episode of Derek and Romaine. And if you want more great fun, go to dnrstudios.com and subscribe to get our show every day. And don't forget, for DNR Plus subscribers, you can use the DNR Cast app for iPhone, available now in the App Store.